The gunmetal sky hung low over the endless cornfields of rural Illinois like a bad omen, pressing down on the rusted pickup truck that rattled along the gravel road. I gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles ached, my father's voice echoing in my head like a curse. "You're no son of mine, Ethan. Get out and don't come back until you've scrubbed the shame off your soul." And then the door slammed, not just on the family farmhouse, but on everything I thought I knew about love, loyalty, and the American dream we'd all been sold. That was 8 years ago, the day after my 21st birthday, when I came out to him in the kitchen, the smell of fried eggs and regret thick in the air. Now, as I pulled up to the wrought iron gates of the estate that used to be home, the obituary burned a hole in my pocket. James Harlan Whitaker, titan of Whitaker Industries, dead at 72 from a heart attack in his boardroom. The man who'd built an empire on steel and spite had finally crumbled. And here I was, the black sheep, summoned back like a ghost to haunt his grave. I killed the engine and sat there, staring at the mansion's facade, white columns gleaming under the weak December sun. The kind of place that screamed old money and older secrets. My hands trembled as I adjusted the rearview mirror, catching a glimpse of the faded tattoo on my forearm. A small rainbow flag inked in haste during my first Pride in Chicago. A middle finger to the life I'd been forced to flee. The funeral was in 2 hours, and with it, the reading of the will. Part of me wanted to floor it back to the city, to the dingy apartment where Christopher waited with his easy laugh and steady hands. But another part, the stubborn, heartbroken kid who'd spent years mopping toilets in Dad's factories just to prove he could survive without him, needed to see this through. For closure. For revenge. For the boy I'd buried under layers of grease and grief. The gravel crunched under my boots as I stepped out, the cold biting through my thrift store wool coat. A black limo idled by the entrance, its driver eyeing me like I was an intruder. Inside, the house smelled of polished oak and lilies, the air heavy with a murmur of mourners, cousins I barely recognized, executives in tailored suits nursing whiskeys, and Aunt Lydia, Dad's sister, who spotted me first and froze mid-sip. "Ethan," her voice cracked like thin ice, her pearls clinking as she crossed the foyer. She was the only one who'd snuck me care packages during those lean years, canned soup and dog-eared John Grisham novels. Never a word about Dad's rage. "Oh, honey, you came." I nodded, throat tight. Heard about the will. Figured it was now or never. Her eyes softened, but there was a flicker of something else. Pity? Warning? "It's complicated. Come on, let's get you a suit. You look like you've been sleeping in that thing. Upstairs in my old room, untouched, like a museum of mediocrity. The dust motes danced in the slanted light from the window overlooking the Whitaker estate's manicured lawns. I stripped down, the mirror reflecting a body hardened by labor, calluses on my palms from scrubbing porcelain bowls, a slight hunch from years bent over mops in Dad's sprawling factories in the Midwest Rust Belt. Whitaker Industries wasn't just steel mills, it was truck stops, warehouses, and yes, public restrooms in every greasy spoon from Peoria to Pittsburgh. I'd started there after he kicked me out. No handouts. No college fund. "Earn your keep like a man," he'd snarled. And so I did, invisible in the shadows, wiping away the messes of men who probably spat on folks like me. As Aunt Lydia fussed with a starched white shirt that hung loose on my frame, she whispered, "He never stopped talking about you. You know." In his own way. I snorted, buttoning the cufflinks, engraved with the family crest. A Whitaker since the coal mines of Pennsylvania in the 1800s. His way was signing my paychecks with a post-it that said disgrace. She winced. James was complicated. The war in Vietnam broke something in him. And then your mother. Her voice trailed off. Mom had died in a car wreck when I was 10, drunk driver on a snowy back road. Dad never remarried, just buried himself in board meetings and bourbon. The funeral home downtown was a squat brick building on the edge of town. The parking lot jammed with F-150s and Cadillacs. I slipped in late, sliding into a pew at the back, the organ droning Amazing Grace like a dirge for my dignity. Up front, the casket gleamed mahogany. Dad's portrait projected on a screen, stern jaw, silver hair slicked back, the eyes that could freeze a room. Mourners wept, real tears from the loyalists, crocodile ones from the opportunists. That's when I saw him. Christopher. Not here. Of course, he'd never set foot in this Bible Belt backwater, but in my mind's eye, clear as yesterday. We met 3 years ago in Chicago, at a dive bar during a Bears game. Him nursing a Bud Light with that lopsided grin that made my chest ache. "You look like you could use a real drink," he'd said, sliding onto the stool next to me, his knee brushing mine under the sticky bar top. Christopher Hale, graphic designer from the South Side, with a laugh like summer thunder and a way of holding my hand in public that dared the world to say something. He'd been my anchor through the endless shifts, the nights I came home reeking of bleach and bitterness. "Your old man's a fool. Ethan," he'd murmur into my hair as we lay tangled in our queen-size bed, the city lights flickering through the blinds. "But you're building something he can't touch." Us. Now, staring at Dad's casket, I wondered if us was strong enough to weather this storm. The service dragged, homilies about legacy, hymns about redemption, until the family gathered in a side room for the will. Mr. Hargrove, the family lawyer since Watergate, adjusted his bifocals and cleared his throat. James Harlan Whitaker leaves the bulk of his estate, Whitaker Industries, the properties, the trusts, to his sole surviving son, Ethan James Whitaker. Gasps rippled through the room like wind through cornstalks. My cousin Mark, Dad's golden boy VP, shot to his feet. "What? That's bullshit." He hated Ethan, called him a fag to his face. The word landed like a slap. Heads turning, whispers erupting. Aunt Lydia gripped my arm, her nails digging in. I stood frozen, the room spinning. Sole surviving son? What about Mark's endless ass-kissing? The boardroom plots? Hargrove raised a hand. James was explicit. "There are conditions, but the inheritance is yours." Ethan. Effective immediately. Mark lunged forward, face purple. "This is a joke. Dad told me everything. Ethan's the reason the old man's been miserable. Kicked him out for good reason. For being gay?" I shot back, voice steady despite the quake in my gut. "Yeah, I remember. He made sure I did. Every paycheck." The room fell silent, the air thick with unspoken scandals. Hargrove cleared his throat again. "There's a letter. For you alone. Ethan." James left it in the safe. As they filed out, condolences turning to curses under breaths. I clutched the envelope, the paper crisp as fresh snow. Back in the truck, engine idling, I tore it open under the dome light. "Son, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and the truth can't hurt me anymore. I wasn't the man you thought. Or maybe I was, and that's worse. The factories, the fortune, it's yours because you're the only one who fought for it. Even when I made you bleed for it. Forgive me? Probably not. Understand? Try. Your father, James. No apology for the years of exile. The slurs scrawled on my locker at the factory. Just a cryptic plea. My phone buzzed. Christopher. How'd it go? Miss you. Home safe? I typed back. Inherited it all. World upside down. Be home soon. But as I drove into the night, the estate shrinking in the rear view, I couldn't shake the feeling that Dad's ghost was riding shotgun, whispering secrets I'd paid dearly to unearth. The skyline of Chicago swallowed me whole that night, a jagged beast of glass and steel that always felt more like home than the Illinois flatlands ever could. I parked the truck in our spot behind the walk-up on Halstead, the engine ticking cool as I climbed the 3 flights of stairs, keys jingling like guilty secrets. Christopher was waiting, sprawled on the couch in his Bears hoodie. Takeout containers from Giordano's scattered on the coffee table like confetti from a party I hadn't been invited to. "Babe," his voice pulled me through the door, warm and rough around the edges, the kind of sound that could uncoil the knots in my spine. He unfolded himself, all 6'2" of him, and crossed the room in 2 strides, pulling me into a hug that smelled of deep dish crust and him, clean soap and faint cologne, the scent that had anchored me through 1,000 shitty dawns. I buried my face in his neck, the weight of the day crashing down. It's mine. All of it. The company, the houses, the everything. He pulled back, hazel eyes searching mine under the harsh kitchen fluorescence. "Whoa. Slow down. Your dad, he left you Whitaker Industries? After all that?" "Yeah." I sank onto the couch, the letter crumpling in my fist, and a note that makes 0 sense. Like he's sorry, but not really. Christopher grabbed 2 Leinenkugels from the fridge, popping the caps with a bottle opener shaped like a miniature Liberty Bell, a kitschy gift from his Wisconsin roots. He handed me one, clinking bottles before dropping beside me, his thighs solid against mine. "Read it to me." I did, voice flat, the words tasting like ash. When I finished, he whistled low. "Damn. That's layered. Your old man was always a fortress." "Huh. Walls up to here." He tapped his temple. "But this, it's like he's cracking open." Post-mortem, I took a swig, the beer cold and bitter. "Or it's a trap. Mark's already lawyering up. I bet. And the board, they'll eat me alive. I'm the janitor who couldn't hack a corner office." "Hey." His hand found my knee, squeezing. "You're the guy who survived 8 years of that hell without breaking. You're tougher than all of them combined. We'll figure it out." The word wrapped around me like his arms, a lifeline in the choppy waters of what came next. That night, we made love slow and deliberate, not frantic, but like we were mapping each other anew, his breath hot against my collarbone, my fingers tracing the freckles across his shoulders like constellations in a Chicago sky. Afterward, tangled in sheets that smelled of us, he murmured, "Proud of you, Ethan, for going back, for not letting him win." But sleep evaded me, Dad's letter glowing in the dark like a coal. What truth couldn't hurt him anymore? I'd always assumed his hatred was pure, small-town machismo, the kind that sent kids like me running to the cities. But there were whispers. Even then, Mom's accident not so accidental. Dad's late nights at the VFW hall, turning into benders that left him staring at old photos of soldiers in fatigues. The next morning, sunlight sliced through the blinds, painting stripes on Christopher's sleeping form. I slipped out, brewed coffee strong as regret, and called Aunt Lydia. "The letter, what did he mean?" A pause. Then her sigh crackled over the line. "Ethan, honey, some doors are best left shut. But if you're asking, James had ghosts. From the war. And before. Come back soon. The executors want a meeting." I hung up, staring at the city waking below, commuters hustling to the L, horns blaring in the eternal gridlock. Whitaker Industries wasn't just Dad's legacy. It was a beast with tentacles in every Midwestern vein, employing thousands, crushing unions, And yeah, owning those rest stops where I'd scrub urinals until my hands bled. Inheriting it meant power, sure, but also the weight of every laid-off worker. Every environmental fine swept under the rug. By noon, the calls started. Reporters from the Tribune sniffing for scandal. Disowned son inherits empire inside the family rift. Mark, my cousin, texted a single emoji, a middle finger. And then an email from Hargrove, urgent, review of codicils. Discrepancies noted. Discrepancies. The word lodged in my throat like a bone. I forwarded it to Christopher, who was at a client meeting downtown, sketching logos for some tech startup. His reply buzzed back, on my way. Pizza for lunch? We got this. He showed up with a deep dish supreme, grease soaking through the box, and we spread papers across the kitchen table like battle plans. Okay, he said, wiping sauce from his chin. Codicil means amendment, right? Maybe he changed his mind last minute, or someone tampered. I paced, the linoleum cool under my socks. Mark's been gunning for CEO. What if he forged something? Christopher's brow furrowed, that protective glint in his eye. We hire our own lawyer. Neutral ground. And Ethan, promise me you'll brief. This isn't just money, it's your story now. Our story. But as the days blurred into a frenzy of conference calls and NDAs, cracks started showing. I'd catch Christopher on late-night scrolls through LinkedIn, eyes distant, muttering about opportunities. Once, I came home early to find him on the phone. Voice low. Yeah, I get it. Stability matters. But Ethan's got this. Who was on the other end? A friend? Or the doubt I'd always feared? The one that whispered I wasn't enough, too broken, too blue-collar for a life beyond the factories. 2 weeks in, the first real blow landed. A package arrived at the apartment. Grainy photos, timestamped from months ago. Me, outside a bar in Boys Town, arm around Christopher, laughing under neon lights. But then him, pulling away, glancing at a guy in a leather jacket, the kind of look that lingered too long. And a note, typed anonymous, blood's thicker than water. Cousin, keep the toilets. Or everyone knows. Mark. It had to be. Rage boiled up, hot and righteous. And I confronted Christopher that night. Photos splayed on the bed like evidence in a trial. Did you? I couldn't finish. Heart hammering. His face crumpled. Ethan, no, that's not. God, babe, it's nothing. That guy, old college buddy. We bumped into him. That's all. But the look, my voice broke. And the calls. The scrolling. Are you ashamed of this? Of me dragging you into my mess? He reached for me, but I flinched. Ashamed? Jesus. Ethan, I've fought for us every day. My family's the same. Dad still calls a phase. But you? You're my choice. Every time, we argued until dawn. Words like shrapnel, my insecurities from Dad's rejection, his frustrations at sidelining his career to prop me up. I love you, he yelled at one point, voice raw, but I can't be your punching bag for your father's sins. The silence after was deafening, the city humming indifferent outside. I left for a walk, pounding pavement until my lungs burned, past the rainbow crosswalks of Northelstead, where pride flags fluttered like defiant prayers. By the time I returned, he'd packed a bag, not leaving, he said, just space at his buddy's loft. To think, without the empire hanging over us, alone, I cracked open Dad's letter again, tracing the loops of his handwriting. Understand? I was starting to hatred as armor, love as the wound beneath. But understanding didn't heal, it just sharpened the ache. The meeting with the executors was set for Springfield, neutral ground in the state capital. I drove solo, The truck's radio tuned to static-filled country stations crooning about lost loves and dusty roads. Aunt Lydia met me at the hotel, her eyes red-rimmed. Mark's contesting. Says you're unfit, moral turpitude. He calls it. Pulled strings with the board. Unfit because I'm gay. I slammed my fist on the table. Coffee sloshing. In 2025, this is America, not some theocracy. She leaned in, voice a whisper. It's deeper. James. He had a brother. Your uncle. Died in the war. They were close. Too close. Some said. Rumors followed James home. Whispers in the VFW. Folks crossing the street. He overcompensated. Hard. My stomach dropped. He was bi. Probably. Repressed as hell. Never acted on it. Far as I know. But it ate him. When you came out, it was like staring in the mirror. He pushed you away to save himself. The room tilted. All those years of scrubbing, of silence, wasn't just hate, it was fear. His fear, mirrored in mine. I nodded numbly as Hargrove entered. Files in hand. The codicil, it's legitimate. But there's a clause. You must assume full control within 90 days. Or it reverts to the board. And Ethan. James left evidence. Tapes. From a safe. Tapes. Of what? Confessions? Blackmail? The drive back was a blur. My mind a storm of what-ifs. Christopher's texts went unanswered. Talk to me. Please. But pride, Dad's curse, kept me silent. That night, alone in the apartment that suddenly felt cavernous, I dreamed of cornfields and caskets. Dad's hand reaching out, not in anger, but plea. Woke sweating, the phone ringing, unknown number. Ethan Whitaker, a gravelly voice, East Coast accent. This is Detective Ruiz, Chicago PD. We need to talk. About your father's death. Heart attack my ass. The empire wasn't inherited, it was booby-trapped. The detective's office in the Loop smelled like stale coffee and desperation. Fluorescent lights buzzing overhead like angry hornets. Ruiz was a compact man in his 50s, tie loosened, a bear's mug cradled in meaty hands. He gestured me to a chair scarred by years of suspects, sliding a file across the desk. Your father's not just dead, Mr. Whitaker. He's suspicious. I stare at the photos, autopsy close-ups. No gore, just clinical angles of bruising on Dad's arms. A faint ligature mark peeking from his collar. Murder. The word tasted foreign. Like a plot twist in one of those true crime podcasts Christopher obsessed over. Possible. Heart attack could have been induced potassium chloride. Untraceable in small doses. And the boardroom was locked. But security footage shows Mark leaving 10 minutes prior. Argument. From the audio. Mark. My cousin. The heir apparent. Now the prime suspect in patricide. Motive. Ruiz leaned back. Chair creaking. The will. He knew about the changes. Overheard James dictating it. Plus, embezzlement allegations. Siphoning funds to offshore accounts. If you take control, audits happen. Closures. I rub my temples. The room closing in. And me? Am I? Safe. For now. But watch your back. Family's messy. Business is messy, eh? He paused. Eyes sharpening. One more thing. Those tapes your father left? We found copies in his safe deposit box. Mention you. My pulse thundered. What do they say? Not my call. But they're personal. Get a lawyer. Listen soon. I stumbled out into the December chill. Wind whipping off Lake Michigan like a slap from the gods. The city pulsed around me, tourists snapping selfies by the bean, suits hustling to lunch at Lou Malnati's, but I felt untethered, adrift in a sea of betrayals. Dad, murdered? By blood? And tapes, plural. Secrets stacked like dominoes, ready to topple everything. Back home, the apartment was a tomb. Christopher's hoodie slung over the couch. A half-empty beer on the counter. Ghosts of normalcy. I texted him, "Need you. It's bad. Come over?" His reply, "On my way. Love you." He arrived with takeout pho from that Vietnamese spot on Argyle. Steam rising like peace offerings. We ate cross-legged on the floor, the TV murmuring a Blackhawks game neither of us watched. "So," he said finally, slurping noodles. "Murder." I nodded, recounting Ruiz's words, the photos burning behind my eyelids. Why got to the tapes? His fork paused midair. Jesus. What if it's him confessing something about me? Us. The fear coiled tight. Or worse, what if he recorded me back when I was at the factories, thinking I was alone in the break room, crying over you before we even met? Christopher set his bowl down, scooting closer. His hand found mine, thumb stroking the tattoo. Whatever it is, we'll face it. But Ethan, this inheritance, it's poison. Walk away. We can start fresh. My designs are picking up. We could move to Brooklyn or Portland. Anywhere but this shadow. His words hung. Tempting. The American dream wasn't mansions. It was freedom. The kind we tasted in stolen kisses at Wrigley Field. Hot dogs in hand. The crowd roaring oblivious. But walking? That meant letting Mark win. Letting Dad's ghost fade without justice. I can't. Not yet. He saw himself in me. Lydia says, the hiding. If I run, it's like admitting he's right, that I'm weak. Christopher's jaw tightened. A flash of frustration. And if you stay, you become him. The Empire chews people up. Look at your dad. Isolated. Paranoid. That's not us. The argument simmered low. Not explosive like before, but insidious, eroding the foundation. He stayed the night. Our bodies fitting familiar, but his touch felt tentative, like testing thin ice. Morning brought a knock. Hargrove. Briefcase in hand. Face ashen. The tapes. 4 of them. James recorded them over the last year. Addressed to you. We listened in my old bedroom at the estate. Flown back on a whim, Christopher insisted on coming. Solidarity in his grip on the armrest during the charter jet's bumpy descent. The room was the same, twin bed, faded Cubs posters, a shelf of my boyhood trophies gathering dust. Hargrove set up a vintage cassette player on the desk, the whir of tape like a heartbeat. Click. Dad's voice, gravelly from cigars and grief. Ethan, if this plays, you're listening because I couldn't say it face to face. Track 1. The truth about your mother. My stomach nodded. Christopher squeezed my hand as Dad continued. She didn't die in an accident. I pushed her. Not with hands, with words. That night, she found letters. From me. To a soldier buddy in Nam. She confronted me, drunk on wine and fury. I yelled, called her hysterical. She stormed out, slipped on the ice. I watched from the porch, too coward to stop her. The tape hissed static. I gagged, bile rising. He blamed me for coming out, like I was her echo. No, Christopher whispered, arm around me. He blamed himself. Kept you close to punish himself. Track 2, the factories. I put you there not to break you, but to build you. Watch from the office cams, every shift, every tear. You were stronger than me. Son, gay or not, you fought clean. Tears blurred the words. Hot and unbidden. Track 3, Mark. He's bleeding the company dry. Evidence in the safe, ledgers, transfers. Protect it. For the workers, not the wealth. And 4, a ramble. Voice slurring, bourbon. No doubt. I loved you. Boy. Feared you more. Be better. Find your Christopher. Wait. Who's? A cough. Then silence. The tape ended. Hargrove cleared his throat. He knew about your partner. Mention him in notes. I laughed. Bitter. Ow. Private eye. Probably. Paranoia. But the revelation landed soft, Dad. In his twisted way. Aware. Accepting from afar. We drove to the factory that afternoon. The one in Joliet where I'd started. The air reeked of molten steel and sweat. Workers in hard hats, nodding wary hellos. In Dad's my office, overlooking the floor, I pulled the ledgers. Pages of falsified invoices. Mark's signature scrawled like venom. He's done, I said. Voice steel. Ruiz gets this. Christopher nodded, but his eyes were distant, staring at the machines churning below. Ethan, I need to tell you something. My heart stuttered. What? That night at the bar, the photos. It wasn't nothing. He swallowed. The guy? We hooked up. Once. College. Before us. But recently, he reached out. Offered me a job. In New York. Big firm. Stability. I said no. But I thought about it. For us. If this inheritance tanks you. Betrayal. Sharp as a mill blade. You what? While I'm drowning. You shop for exits. It was one call. He flushed. I was scared for you. For me. My folks cut me off when I came out. I can't lose everything again. The room echoed with our shouts. Accusations flying. My obsession with legacy. His fear of poverty. You're just like him. I yelled. Hiding behind excuses. He grabbed his coat. No. Ethan. I'm human. Call me when you're done playing martyr. The door slammed. Alone. I sank into Dad's chair. The ledgers mocking me. Below. A worker, a kid, barely 20, waved up. Oblivious. This was the empire, lives intertwined. Fragile as steel under strain. That night, phoning Ruiz with the evidence. I felt the noose tighten, not on Mark, but me. An anonymous tip had leaked to the press. Disowned gay son accused of elder abuse in final days. Doctored emails. My name forged. Mark's doing? Retaliation. Cornered. I drove to his McMansion in Naperville. The suburbs a sterile grid of minivans and manicured lawns. He answered smirking, scotch in hand. Cuz. Come to gloat. You killed him. I thrust the ledgers forward. And this? Over money. His laugh was hollow. Dad was already dead inside. The heart attack? Stress from you. Crawling back. I just helped it along. Confession. I hit record on my phone. Why? Because he chose you. The ferry over family. Spittle flecked his lip. Grandpa built this from nothing, Appalachian dirt. And you? You torch it for your boyfriend parade. The fight spilled into the driveway. Fists not flying, but words lacerating. You're the disgrace, I snarled. Hiding behind suits while Dad rotted. Sirens wailed distant. Neighbors. No doubt. Mark lunged, grabbing my collar. Run the company? They'll never follow a queer like you. I shove him off, dialing Ruiz as I backed away. It's over. Mark, but his cop cars lit the night blue and red. Victory tasted like ash. Christopher's car pulled up. How? Aunt Lydia must have called. He got out, face pale. Heard the scan. Ethan, I collapsed against him, sobs racking. I lost you. For this. No. His arms tightened. We lost our way. But I'm here, in the squad car. Mark sneered through the window. Enjoy the throne. Cinderella. It'll crumble. The arrest made headlines. Whitaker scion nabbed for fratricide plot. Empire in turmoil. Me at the helm. But the real high tide crashed later. In a sterile hospital room, Ruiz called at dawn. Your father's death? Natural. Stress-induced. Mart's pills were bluff. He confessed to bluffing. To scare you into folding. No murder. Just a lie within a lie. Dad gone clean. His ghost lighter. But the damage? Irreversible. The boardroom at Whitaker Tower in downtown Chicago was a Shark Tank disguised as corporate chic. Mahogany table polished to a mirror sheen. Floor-to-ceiling windows framing the loop's relentless hustle. And executives circling like they smelled blood. It was my first official meeting as CEO. 90 days ticking down like a bomb. I traded the work boots for loafers that pinched. The flannel for a suit that hung like borrowed skin. But the calluses remained. Reminders that power wasn't given. It was seized. Inch by filthy inch. Ladies and gents, I started. Voice steadier than I felt. We're auditing everything. No sacred cows. The ledger's mark cooked? That's the tip. Unions get a seat. Green initiatives launch next quarter. And the restrooms, every facility gets a full Reno. Pride stickers optional. But judgment? Not on my dime. Murmurs rippled. Approval from the old guard who'd toiled beside Dad. Side-eye from the VPs who'd kissed Mark's ring. Elena Vasquez, the steel mill foreman turned exec, nodded fierce. About time. Workers been begging for dignity. As they filed out, Christopher lingered by the credenza, fiddling with a water glass. We'd patched the rift in fits and starts. Therapy sessions in a Wicker Park walk-in, where a no-nonsense counselor named Raj made us unpack the baggage like suitcases from hell. Trust isn't rebuilt overnight, he'd say, but it's worth the wreckage. Christopher had turned down the New York gig, inked a freelance deal instead. His designs now gracing Whitaker's rebrand, bold lines. Rainbows subtle in the steel motifs. You killed it, he said now, straightening my tie with that half-smile that still unraveled me. Proud doesn't cover it. I pulled him close, the door clicking shut behind the last suit. Felt like jumping without a net. But you, coming to Naperville that night, saved me. His kiss was soft, affirming, the kind that whispered future over fallout. We save each other. Always. But the high faded fast. Aunt Lydia called that evening, voice trembling over speakerphone as Christopher chopped onions for stir-fry. Ethan, the tapes, there's a fifth. Hidden in the attic. I found it cleaning. It's about you. Directly, we drove out that weekend. The estate a reluctant host under a sky bruised purple. The attic smelled of mothballs and memory. Beams creaking as we sifted boxes of Dad's war relics, dog tags, faded letters, a purple heart tarnished with time. The cassette was tucked in a shoebox, labeled for Ethan, last words. Back in the study, fire crackling in the hearth, a relic Dad loved. Roaring against Illinois winters, we played it. His voice emerged fragile. No bourbon slur, son. If the others didn't break you, this might. I knew about Christopher before you did. Hired a PI after your first Pride. Saw the photos. You. Happy. Him. Looking at you like you hung the moon. My breath hitched. Christopher's hand stilled on my knee. I envied that. Never had it. Not with men. Not after the jungle. Buddies died in my arms. I came home hollow. Push you to the toilets, to toughen you. Like boot camp. Cruel. I know. But watching you rise, cleaned something in me. A pause. Paper rustling. One more truth. You're not soul surviving. Got a half-brother. From Nam, affair with a nurse. Tommy. Raised him stateside. Off books. He's in Seattle now. Mechanic. Didn't tell you cause. Fear. Of losing you both. The tape clicked off. Silence stretched. The fire popping like accusations. A brother. Another Whitaker ghost. Flesh and blood. Christopher exhaled. Whoa. That's a do-over. You gonna find him? I stared at the flames. Dad's eyes in the andirons. Yeah, but slowly. This family's been fractured long enough. We left at dusk. The estate's lights winking farewell. On the road, Christopher queued up Springsteen, Thunder Road. Dad's secret favorite. Crooned low on hidden mixtapes. To new chapters, he toasted with a thermos of coffee. But chapters twist. 2 months in, the lawsuits hit. Shareholders suing over moral leadership. Mark's allies painting me as the destabilizer. Protests outside the factories. Picket lines chanting, "Gay CEO." Straight answers. Some cheers. Some slurs that echoed Dad's venom. I testified in depositions. Voice raw. Recounting the exile, the scrubs, the inheritance as redemption arc. One night, bone tired from it all, I broke in Christopher's arms on our balcony. City lights, a constellation below. What if I fail? The workers. Tommy. You. Then we rebuild. His forehead pressed to mine. Breath mingling in the chill. Like you did before. From nothing. Tommy. Thomas Harlan. 45. Grease under his nails and a wary squint when we met at a diner off I-90. He looked like Dad. Broad shoulders. That Whitaker jaw. But his eyes held no steel, just quiet ache. He wrote, Tommy said over black coffee. Letters I burned. Too proud. We talked halting, nom stories from Dad's shadow. My factory days mirroring his shop grind. No instant romance, but a thread, share blood, mended slow. Stay in touch, I asked, sliding my card. He pocketed it. Maybe. Families earned skepticism. The climax crested unexpected. A month shy of the deadline. Anonymous leak. CEO's lover in embezzlement ring? Dr. Doc's tying Christopher to Mark's schemes. His designs laundered through shell companies. Rage blinded. I confronted him at dawn. Papers raining like confetti from hell. You? The word shattered me. His face drained white. Ethan. No, it's fabricated. Mark's last gasp from lockup. But doubt festered. Old wounds reopening. The calls. New York. Now this. He paced. Fists clenched. God damn it. I'm not him. I chose you, every risk, every slur for my redneck kin. If you can't see that, he walked out, bag in hand. The doors click a guillotine. Days blurred, board votes teetering. Press hounding. Tommy texting, heard the news. Blood or not. Protect yourself. Rock bottom hit in Dad's old office. Alone with the ledgers and ghosts. I replayed the 5th tape. His voice a bomb, be better. Dialed Christopher, voicemail. Then, forensics report from Ruiz, docs faked. Ink mismatch. Mark's handiwork. Confessed in a plea deal. I raced to Christopher's loft, pounding the door until it yielded. He stood there, eyes red, packing. Go ahead. Fire me from your empire. I dropped to my knees. Literal surrender. I'm sorry. For doubting. For letting the past poison us. He hauled me up. Kissed desperate. Idiot. I was packing to fight for us. Not flee. We collapsed laughing. Crying. The loft a sanctuary. The board convened emergency. I presented the audit. Green plans. Union seats. Votes swung. Trust earned in transparency. Spring brought thaw. Tommy visited. Awkward barbecue on our balcony. Hot dogs charring as we swapped stories. Dad was wrong about a lot, he said, clinking beers. But right about you. The company stabilized. Restrooms remodeled with stalls wide as acceptance. Christopher's designs bloomed, murals in factories, rainbows etched in steel beams. We married quiet. City Hall steps under a June sky. Aunt Lydia officiating with teary vows. No empire fanfare, just us. Rings simple as promises. Some nights, I dream of cornfields. Dad nodding from the porch, not forgiving, but free. I wake to Christopher's steady breath. The city humming hope. Inheritance wasn't wealth. It was this, love claimed. Secrets aired. A legacy rewritten not in boardrooms, but hearts. In America, the heartland scars run deep, but so do the roots. We grow through the grit,